There you go. And so what we want to do in week 3 is what we talk about is the core 4 that we're going to find most of our deal flow from. First is on market. People that say there's no on market deals, they have no idea what they're talking about. 70% of the deal flow that we do out of our office today is actually on market properties. And the reason that we're getting deals done isn't because we're just that good at it. We're looking at the deal a little bit differently and we're pairing the right investor up with the right deal. You know, if there's a lot of large fixers in the market, and that's what we're seeing in the inventory that's producing on market, then we're going to go out and find the buyers that are more experienced, that can handle those heavier lifts and focus on them because that's where our inventory is coming in. I could have 50 new clients come in that want all cosmetic fixers, but if there's not the inventory for it, then I'm just going to have 50 potential leads and I can't really transact with it. And so for the on market, the most important thing is to go through the data, go through the listings and go, okay, what are we seeing that are the best possible buys? What are the deepest? And depending on the market cycle, that's always going to change. You know, if it's when rates spike up, there was deals on everything, cosmetic fixers, there was land deals, there was heavy fixers. Today, as the market's got more competitive again, what it's done is cost of money's high. So it's hard for people to take deals down and keep their cost under control. Construction's still high. And it makes them avoid those big fixers. And in our market and in most, even in Scottsdale and Newport, all those areas, that buyer pool's a lot smaller. And so when we go identify those buyers and pull those data lists that we're talking about week 2, we can pair the right people up with the right deal. And so the most important thing with on market is to start setting up in a way where you can have visibility and setting up those traps. Those traps, like I talked about, are you want to look at the stuff that is the cheapest, right? So things that we do is like every house that's listed in King County, which is one of our biggest areas. One of my searches is anything that's listed for $250 per square foot or less. I need to look at that deal because it's a cheap price per square foot. That means there's value and it allows me to just comb through those deals and I know they're an opportunity. Probates, putting those in the search function of, hey, this is what we trap. This is how we look at things. You know, anything that's a probate could have some sort of symptom of distress. It could need repairs. And so every house that's listed with a probate gets sent directly to us. And then for our team, we look at it, we drive it, we do the hard work for the client first, and then bring them the opportunity with this is the number we need to pay for this house. We don't let the client dictate the number because we're doing all the work. We bring it to them and it allows us to transact. And so dig into your MLS and find out where are the gaps in your market? Where is the inventory that you're not finding or that people are overlooking? And for people like Abel's in SoCal or in California, that's expensive inventory. Those are when you're in a more expensive area, it's the best time to be looking at on-market deals. San Francisco has a lot of deals. Seattle does. Austin does. Chicago does. Atlanta. These bigger fixers, Miami especially does right now, that are bigger price points, you can transact with those. Wholesaling networking. One of the mistakes that brokers make is they go out and they talk to wholesalers and they get on their list and they're just getting sent the same spam everyone else is getting. And as brokers, you guys, we get paid when we bring a profitable opportunity somewhat off market with some sizzle to it. When it's mass spammed across everywhere, no one cares. It becomes a dead deal. It becomes a stale deal. No one wants it. And it's all about those relationships that I talk about in week 3 is instead of meeting the wholesaler and getting on the list, find how you can add value to them. Adding value to a wholesaler, like a brand new wholesaler for me, is going, hey, any appointment that you have, I'll run you a CMA on the as is value, the fixed up value, and I'll give you a price that I know my clients can buy at. If they send us an address and photos, we're going to give them a rough range. They're going to have the information they need to help them transact. And that's why a lot of wholesalers bring us deals. It's not just about buying the deal, we're helping them get the deal. And as brokers, we have a very good power to provide people with information that we can get, we can really enhance their business. And once you do a couple deals with a wholesaler that way, they're locked in with you for life because you're a business partner of them, not just a person that they're mass marketing to. The training right now for wholesaling is get a deal, blast it out everywhere, see who wants to buy it. That's throwing mud at the wall. That's not what we do as brokers. And so for us, as we sell to clients, we want to scrub those deals. We want to run the CMAs. We want to look at, are they profitable? And we do not send them out unless we feel like they're a profitable opportunity that pairs up with the right investor. Broker networking, the third avenue. This is one of the most, as brokers, you guys, one of the best things that we do as a big broker team is do outreach to other brokers in our market that we see sell a lot of homes in specific neighborhoods. You guys, most brokers work out territory. They farm a territory where their marketing efforts are going into 3 different neighborhoods. So they're a familiar face for people. They constantly get business because they have steady drip marketing for years in that neighborhood. Many of those brokers know the neighbors, they have family in the area, they get referrals, and they get referred to properties that need a lot of work, and it's not in their core business. And so for us to reach out to them and explain to them, hey, look, we are active buyers. We can buy headache problems for you. Or if you have a transitional seller, we can work with your terms and allow for a smooth selling. That helps them get another listing because if they can bring an offer with someone that will allow someone a 6-month close because maybe they're transitioning from their house into an old folks home, or they're transitioning out of states. The terms really help them sell that property and they will do more transactions with you. And so the areas that you're actively working in the areas that your buyers are telling you that they're looking the most aggressive for that inventory, you want to have the poll on the MLS. Who's the brokers doing the most amount of transactions in that area? Who are the brokers selling all the probate homes? Who are the brokers that are selling all the bankruptcy sales? One of our bigger relationships in Washington is we have relationships with probably the 5 biggest bankruptcy listing brokers. The reason they like us is we're very dependable. We do not waste their time. And if they're working a short sale, the last thing they want is for someone to write an offer, go through this process for the deal to unwind. Because we have dependability and track record with them, they call us first or push our offers through over other brokers. But it's based on getting to know them. And so as you see these people in the market, send them a text, send them a phone call, reach out to them, get to know them. How can you help their business? How can they help yours? Create those strategic partnerships with those brokers because that's how you get more deals done. It's not just going, hey, do you have a deal? Call me. You want to develop that relationship. I did 4 deals with one broker team over the last 45 days in Washington. This team is a team I've talked to for over 8 years, maybe even 10. I reached out to them because I knew they were big land brokers. They sell a lot of dirt off market, and the building appetite is pretty low right now. Developers are offering a lot less money on properties than they used to, which for their team, they're not getting a lot of transactions done. And so by steadily reaching out to them, I've now became their biggest avenue for dispo of properties because their developers can pay, let's say 700 for a property and a flipper can pay 800. They just went from getting no deal to a deal done. And so I meet with those people on the regular. I talk to them, develop those relationships, get to know them. Even it was like 3 weeks ago, I went into their office. I looked at all their deals with them. I wanted to find out a way that they could get paid and we could get paid. And by creating that relationship, it just got us, I think we're inking the 5th deal this week with them. And it's closing on Friday. These are 5 properties that we just got commissions on that we're getting 5 listbacks out of. So those relationships are probably going to yield us over $20 million in sales between the purchase and the listbacks. And so get to know those brokers and get to know them on a personal level. Again, you guys, this is not just about, hey, I need inventory, I need inventory. Get to know them. The more people know you, the more they value that relationship, and you will grow your business. The last thing that we talked about was direct to seller. And you guys, for brokers, the big benefit that we have over wholesalers is we have multiple exit strategies for an off-market lead. And I kind of talked about the kind of core ways that you can drum up that business. Call centers are a very cost-effective way to get massive reach to where you can hire them. And you guys, we get a discount with Easy Button Leads. So if you reach out to Easy Button Leads, you say you're a Project RE student, they'll give you a discount. I think it's like 10 to 15% off their monthly charge. The call centers are great for especially brokers because we can hit a lot of coverage and our cost per lead are fairly low. We can pay a call center for one caller. It's roughly 2 to 3 grand a month, and it's usually going to get us about 40 to 50 potential leads. The cost per lead is a lot less than it is for sending postcards, but the big benefit is we can reach a massive amount of potential leads for a fraction of the cost. Now, out of those leads, 90% of them aren't that great. They're a little bit too new houses. There's no way a cash buyer is going to be able to buy it. But then we can delegate those out to other listing brokers in our office and we can convert on those. And typically, because we're buying these leads at roughly $2,500 a month, we're producing 50 of them, we can convert typically about 3% of those into listings. The listings that we get out of these off-market campaigns pay for our marketing for the entire year. The big benefit is out of that call center, typically we're getting at least 1 to 2 deals a month that we get to sell to our investor client, which is also going to produce a list back. And so by using the call centers, it allows us to produce listings as long as we can make the avenue. The referrals on the listings that we create on those leads pay for the marketing for the year. And then everything that we're doing inside of our investment business has a very low cost per transaction, which produces us a lot. Direct mail, a great way to get in front of sellers. They have a high response rate if you're targeting the right seller. The problem is they cost a little bit more. To do mail, you want to be a much smaller bucket. You want to target a specific area. And for those clients, those big buyers that we talked about week 2, that's where we design our mailing campaigns around. If I have a buyer or a big group of buyers that are looking for a specific product, that's when it makes more sense for us to really farm that area and hit those type of houses with the direct mail and postcards. Typically, on average, we have to mail them 10 to 12 times to get a response out of them. And so that's $12 to $14 that typically we have to spend just to get, and then we're doing that on mass scale of around 3 to 4,000 per month. And so it's got a higher cost per average. Our average deal is about $7,000 to $8,000 per mailing. But by our average commission on those deals is roughly 30 to 35,000 on the front side. And then the list back's going to produce us another 50 to 60. So the marketing spend is worth it, but you want to keep it in a much tighter target. The tighter target needs to be built off your buyer's buy box and also stacked with different symptoms for selling. And we talk about this in week 3, which is how do we stack a lead? So stacking a lead is when we are going through and we're adding different layers of distress that's going to give us a higher likeliness for a conversion rate. That means when we're like looking at a property, we want to be, if we're going to be spending out mail and it's expensive, we want to make sure that it's transactable. We want to make sure there's enough equity in the deal. So we can have our title company pull every property that in the area that has a 70% loan to value or lower. They take the deed of trust that's recorded against the property, the last one. They take a percentage of the tax assessed value, and that scrubs our list way down. Then we can add in layers on top of that. Those layers are going to be, maybe they were in foreclosure at one point. Are they a probate? Is there a property condition? Is it in poor average condition? And the more we stack our list, the higher probability that we have to convert because it has more symptoms for selling. When you guys start marketing off market, and you guys don't have to, but if you do open up the channel, what you have to do, and we're going to talk about this in week 5 now, not 4, about tracking your KPIs. You can spend all the money in the world on marketing, but if you're not creating revenue and profit, it's not worth doing. And so the core 4 that we really talked about was on-market deals, broker relationships, wholesalers, and direct to seller. And so I just wanted to recap that, and then we're going to open up right now just for guys questions on that, because especially lead stacking, if you guys are thinking about targeting off market, if you're thinking about how to find wholesalers, let's bring those questions in, and then let's start talking about creating deal flow. So who's up first?
I guess my first question that I had a thought on, uh, you were talking about figuring out in your own market kind of what is a space that how, like, I guess my question is, how do you, like, what do you search for to kind of get better context as to an area in your market specific? Like, I'm in Arizona, not necessarily so much in Scottsdale. I'm more East Valley. So
I
like
like that
what,
market better too, by the way. And when I've been digging into the market conditions in Scottsdale, I'm not too impressed with what I'm seeing right now.
I guess that's my question is like when you say market conditions, like what are you looking at exactly? Like how are you diving in and getting more knowledgeable with what's going on in the different markets in your areas?
So like what we like to know, like as a flipper, right? And this is, I wouldn't say this is for you as a broker, Ashley. I would think really what you want to know is where's your active buyers and what are they looking for right now in Arizona? And
Mhm.
what we do know in most as brokers is everyone wants a cosmetic flip, right? Hey, I want to buy something I can put carpet paint in, some countertops, some tile, and then resell it for a profit. The easiest stuff. There's always those are those high traffic deals that everybody wants. And those deals are usually sourced better off market than on, because on market we're competing against residential buyers. They could just
Mhm.
move into it that are dated and it makes the margins tight. Um, but what I would do, like, I guess to answer your question, what I look at is I look at active inventories versus pending inventory and what's the current absorption rate. And your title officer can actually pull those lists for you.
Okay.
And they can pull it by zip code. And so, like, if you want to look at, and it's a great piece of marketing that you can send out to your investor clients too, hottest markets to flip in. The hottest markets to flip in are the ones that have the highest absorption rate. So, for example, like when I was looking through Arizona, and I've been digging into the market because I'm like, as I'm getting started as an investor, I'm trying to do my own market research. I wish that a broker would just tell me all this stuff. But it's going, okay, well, right now, for example, in Arcadia, that's where I live. I was very interested in doing it there. But then as I'm looking at price points, I'm going, okay, what the thing I want to know right now is if we're looking at homes that are above $5 million in this neighborhood, the active inventory from 5 to 7 million, which is going to be typically around the same buyer. I think there was 13 actives and only 2 pendings. And so the absorption rate in Arcadia, and that doesn't mean Arcadia is a bad market, but that tells me I don't really want to focus on that, because 2 out of 15 means there's only a 13% absorption rate in the market, which means it's going to take a lot longer to sell. It could cause for, property values to fall because there's not enough buyer demand. But in that same market, with that title rep, I can go, hey, in that same zip code of Arcadia, I want to know how many actives and how many pendings are from 5 to 7. The title rep can also pull you, or you can pull it on the MLS too. That's kind of what I was doing. I was pulling it backwards through Property Radar, and also even just using Zillow, looking at actives versus pendings. What I did see though was if you were flipping a house from 2 to 3 million in that range, which is kind of more the starter home in Arcadia, I think there was 8 homes for sale in that price range, and 6 were pending of the 8. So that has an absorption rate of 75% versus in the higher bracket, it's in the 13%. And so the benefit to knowing that information as brokers, guys, is when we meet with investor clients, and let's say me and Ashley team up. I just moved into town. Ashley's like, "Hey, James, you're an investor. I sell investment properties. I want to sit down and see if I can help you get started down here." one of the first questions I'm going to ask Ashley is, hey, where do you think the best markets to flip in and why? And that's the information that investors and developers want to hear. Going, oh, hey, these are the areas that have the most traffic, that have the highest absorption rate, and that's going to tell you where the least amount of risk is as far as an investor goes. And so, Ashley, for all the areas that you work, I would run those absorption rates. And also another stat that we like to look at, and this is, you guys, this is in the deal packaging underwriting section that's coming out for you guys. That's why I wanted to elaborate on this, the sales side, what reports to look at, how to deliver the deal. But another stat that's very important to investors is what's the list to sale price ratio. So if I'm looking in Paradise Valley right now, when I was looking, the list to sale price ratio is about 10% below. So that means every house that I was looking at above $5 million in Paradise Valley was selling on average for 10% under list. Whereas if you went into Paradise Valley and you were looking at more of the starter homes in that area that are like around 2 million on the dispo, the sale to list ratio was more around 100 to 103% of value. So that means there was a lot more buyers and they were willing to pay full price for those houses, where the other ones were all firing out offers because there's more inventory. And so a flipper takes that information and goes, okay, this is a really good market. It gets me excited. So if Ashley goes, hey, look, we want to focus on Paradise Valley, this price point, because things are selling at 100% of list, if not higher, and the absorption rate is at 75%, she might then all of a sudden, I might not even have that on my buy list and go, okay, I want to get inside this market. And so Ashley, in Arizona, do you work a specific area?
I do a lot in like Gilbert, Mesa, some Queen Creek primarily.
Oh yeah, we need to talk, because actually the Gilbert's doing fairly well right now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, Gilbert. I mean, I haven't run all those numbers, but just hearing you talk, like that's what I was thinking. I feel like if once I dive into the numbers, I feel like those are going to look pretty nice here in Gilbert.
Yeah, and then what that does is that you guide them to also, like, as a broker, you guys, I can take that information and go, okay, so now I have all this information where the hot markets are out of these areas that you just listed: Gilbert, Mesa, what was the third one?
Queen Creek.
Queen Creek, which I actually have heard lots of good things about that too. Um, I can then go, okay, well, where am I seeing the most amount of on market dated beat up homes that are getting listed? Because each one's going to bring a different amount of inventory there.
Mhm.
If I look in Seattle or Burien or Federway, like three different neighborhoods, I know where I'm seeing more inventory. And that helps me guide my client, because the thing about investors, guys, is most of the time they actually don't know what they want. The guys that have been around for a while, that we know exactly what we want. But the new investor that comes in, they're just going, I heard this, so I think I should be doing this. Whereas our jobs as brokers is to guide them into a transaction that's profitable. I would say 75% of the people that come in our office have an idea what they want to buy when they come in, and we end up selling them something completely different. Because at the end of the day, they want to make money, and they had this idea that they only could make money in the city, but for what they were trying to accomplish was near impossible. So instead, we get them into other cities and go over those stats with them and guide them there. And so that's where that reporting, and we'll talk about that in the deal packaging side, like little things you can add to your deals that really make an investor jump and make a quick decision today. But I like that you're working one area, Ashley. Or it's not one area, but it's kind of the same area, right? Like Mesa, they all kind of run into each other. Well,
Yeah,
Gilbert's a little bit further than Mesa, right?
Mesa and Gilbert border each other, and then Queen Creek and Gilbert border each other. And Queen Creek, in a lot of ways, is kind of just becoming an extension of Gilbert, just because it has a lot more a rural area that has, Gilbert has been developed a lot more than Queen Creek. So there's a lot of the new builds and a lot of the developments happening in Queen Creek right now.
Okay, yeah, because of path of progress right there. And
Yeah.
so Queen Creek. So what you just told me though, there's a lot of new builds going on, right? there's also a lot of land for sale because it's big. And
Correct.
so what I want to do is I go, okay, so I have this up and coming neighborhood because it's kind of path of progress, right? The reason it's becoming very buyable is because Gilbert's gotten a lot more expensive.
Correct.
And so that's path of progress. That's a great thing to be going into. But a lot of builders who build in Gilbert still won't build in Queen Creek because Gilbert's like their zone. And so what we want to do, like if we see the opportunities in Queen Creek, which there should be the most because it's the path of progress area, that's where we go, okay, well, what are we seeing right now on market? Well, a lot of what you're probably seeing in those areas, at least when I was just kind of looking around, is like the average house sale in there. It looked like a lot of people are buying them in the sixes and sevens. Is that about right?
Yeah, that I would say, yeah, maybe even mid fives to, I mean, obviously there's depends on the product, but I mean, I'd have to do like a most up-to-date search, but I would say for sure you could find something easily in the mid fives, up to mid sixes, pushing seven, and then obviously bigger and nicer things higher than that. But a lot of the new like entry level type homes, like the 3 and 4 bedroom, 2, 3 bath, things like that, are you can still find in the fives even.
And yeah, and so for us, we know as a flipper, we're gonna have to buy 350 and below in that area typically,
Mhm.
for a certain size house. And so what I want to do is I want to set up going, okay, well, if the average disposition for a flip, let's say that's 1,500 square feet or 2,000 square feet is 550. I then want to have an auto search set up in that zone just so I can see the inventory coming through too and what it looks like and go, okay, well, if I know I'm selling around the 550, I want to look at any property that's for sale at 400 and below. And then go, how much inventory is in there that I can actually sell to investors that are going to be, and in that kind of product, there's going to be more typically cosmetic renovations at that point. And at least for the age of homes I was seeing in there. And that's going to be really good for that mom and pops investor or also for like a hedge fund investor that wants a very systematic track home tile renovation. And so what I want to do, and the good thing about that is that's a low barrier for entry for a lot of investors. Properties that they can buy in the 330 range or 350 range, they have to come up with a lot less money out of pocket. Your typical deal is going to require like 75,000 or less to do that project. That's perfect for that mom and pops investor who's trying to buy that property one at a time, renovate and sell and make a just a good hit. In addition to, since people are building homes and it's kind of the next market, I want to have my title rep pull every builder that is building in this area right now that just sold a property, and I would have the title rep go, give me all LLCs and builders informations that just sold a home with a year built of 2024, and that's going to tell us our active builders in the market. Because when you have land in different types of houses, like in this area, if a house is selling for 550,000 is 2,000 square feet, well, what is it worth if it's only 1,200 square feet? Maybe it's worth in the low 400s. That's where a builder is going to start being in that kind of range of, because if it's worth in the mid 400s, you're going to have to buy that in the 250 range, and maybe that's what they're selling dirt for. And so what we want to do is start identifying who will pair up for that market. And so you want to pull that list of builders in the area who sold anything in 2024, look at what they paid for that property, and then start contacting them and go, what's your demand for dirt right now? And how do you buy, and go through those interview questions that I talked about in week 2. That's how we go, okay, this is my market. These are the active builders going right now. And it allows us to start looking and moving any type of inventory. The mom and pops investors, those are great. But also, Ashley, are you working with any flippers that have been flipping in the higher end at all?
I have a few contacts that I've worked with in the past. Like this last year, I did a deal out in Chandler that was a pretty higher end, and so I kind of reapproached some of those flippers that I had been out of touch with for a little bit to see if they would have potentially been interested, but I've got a handful of buyers in the higher price points.
And this is our opportunity to talk to the buyers, not about trying to sell them a house in Queen Creek. It's about, hey, do you want to look at an investment that could get you a higher return? And so for example, like me, Ashley, like I came into Arizona and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be flipping in the 3 to 4 million, maybe $5 million range, because that's what I'd been seeing, that's what I was looking at. I was shopping in that range for a while, so I kind of saw the activity. I'm like, oh, this is a great market. And then as I started looking, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I like this as much. But also, if a broker came to me and goes, hey, look, I know you do the luxury and you do really well with it. I've seen your projects, they look great. Are you looking for more luxury? And I can kind of tell you the idea of what I'm thinking that I want to buy. Like, yeah, but, if I was in Arcadia and I could buy in the 2.5 range, I'd be interested in that. I just don't want to do the super high end. The next question I always want to ask that investor is, well, what if you could make a higher return in a different neighborhood? Would you be open to that? And the answer is either going to be, what, all my crews and teams are in these more expensive. I just want to stay with that. Or, yes, I want to look at that higher return. Like, Ashley, if you asked me that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm new to the market. What do you got? Let's look at this. Because what we want to do is show them that you, as buyers and sellers, investors change, but they change when they get advice from a broker. Many of my clients right now that were building townhomes. I'm like, you guys, why are you building these townhomes? The dirt's costing too much. You need to get back into single family housing, and this is why. And I'd say, look how much faster these homes are selling in these markets that you're building townhomes in. Yours are taking 90 days to sell. These are taking 5. The permit timelines, people are buying these and getting out of these deals in 14 days or 14 months, and you're doing your townhomes in 18 months. And we were able to convert 50% of our townhome builders into single family builders again because there was more opportunity there for us to transact with. In addition to, it was a much better investment, which actually allowed them to pull the trigger because they weren't writing offers on anything with townhomes. The numbers didn't make sense. And so taking that data and bringing it to them is where you can switch their mindset, but we want to kind of dig in. And I would like you to dig in to those areas you talked about, Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek. That's where we're going to start with.
Another question I have for you, because have you heard of Eastmark at all? It's a pretty big planned community development out in East Mesa. Have you heard of that at all?
I have not heard of that one yet.
Okay, so it's a pretty big, I'm trying to remember what year it's been out there for a while, but they still have some new builds going out there and it's part of a bigger planned community type thing. Well, I know that in Apache Junction, which typically has been known for kind of some of the splotchy, like they've got some 55 plus like leased land manufactured type communities, and then they've got like some new build patches, and it's just been kind of splotchy. But from what I understand, they have a pretty big master plan community, kind of like Eastmark, that's in the works in Apache Junction. And so I don't know if that's ultimately going to be like a path of progress as well. It's more east as opposed to Queen Creek being more south. But I've kind of been wondering if that's an area that I should dive into a little bit more to understand, because I imagine there's going to be more building and things happening out there too.
And I would say right now, you guys, we want to look at where we can transact in. And part of that is on the come up. Like, hey, this could be a path of progress area. Whereas Krings Creek is more like it's the overflow from Gilbert right there.
Yeah, okay.
And so the one problem is, you guys, when the path of progress is already moving, like you were describing in Queen Creek, and I was seeing that a little bit when I was looking at numbers, especially with Gilbert and all that, is with builders right now, cost of money and build costs are still really high for what they're used to doing. And so they don't usually like going into like a brand new market that's master planned because there's a lot of inventory coming up there. And then the data hasn't been established yet. Whereas in Queen Creek, I think that's a better thing for you to dig into because the data is there And then we can pull active builders because you don't want the builders building track like hundreds of track homes. You want the one-off builders that are building 1 to 5 homes a year. That's where you're going to do your best amount of transactions with.
Okay.
And so have them pull that for, but you could have that pulled for any city, right? That you're interested in, your title rep, and it'll cost you about $12. They'll pull this list or they'll just give it to you for free. Builders are the easiest people to get on the phone. And once we get that list, then we can go, okay, well, what's the opportunity out there right now? And the opportunity is, okay, well, they're buying lots for $200,000. Small houses in the area sell for 250,000 as fixers. That's going to tell me going, okay, well, I'm seeing homes in Queens Creek that are fixer homes that are smaller, selling for 250. Builders will pay 200. That's a great place to fish for off market right there because you can almost pay straight retail to a buyer because that seller still had to get the house kind of fixed up. They had to get a show ready. And even though they were selling a fixer, they still have to do certain things and they're paying commissions. The net to that seller is going to be very similar if they sold off market or on. And so based on that information, then I will take that builder and start targeting those lots. Now, if they got to pay 150 for a lot and everything's selling at 250 to 300 as a kind of more dated house, I'm going to focus on my single family buyers that want to flip. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And so, because what you guys, we always want to have a purpose when we're doing this. And that's one thing that we all do as brokers, right? We see, oh, this is going on. Let's chase this. Let's chase this. This new zoning code is coming up. But what I've learned is I need to establish the relationships with the active investors and builders and then go look for what they're looking for, not just try to blanket them with a bunch of stuff. Now I can take the information and go, I think you should transition to this market instead of Gilbert. Like if I called you, Ashley, and said, hey, I'm really interested in Gilbert because I like what I'm seeing here. You could go, you know what? Gilbert's really competitive. It's hard to get a deal done. And honestly, the days on markets, because of how expensive it's gotten, is taking a little bit longer and it's selling for a little bit under list. Whereas Queens Creek has everything selling over list and it's a 10-minute drive or a 20-minute drive, it's a very similar demographic. It's more affordable and there's a higher absorption rate. That's going to tell me I'll jump over cities at that point.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And so, yeah, arming yourself with those stats are really important, but then pulling the active buyers is who we want out of that list.
Okay, yeah, I'll start diving into Queen Creek. I'll even take a look at Gilbert just to compare and contrast because I think they're two. I would say they're the most popular areas here in the East Valley, at least.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's also doing well, you guys, is like investors, we want to target what people will buy. The really expensive stuff is not what investors want to be in right now. It's got a lot of risk. And it's not that you can't sell it, but it's going to be harder to get a deal done. Whereas, if you're looking in Gilbert and it's still affordable, that's why it's moving somewhat well, even though it's more expensive. But and don't forget about Mesa either. Those are your areas because what we want to do is pull the information for all the areas that you're working and then start narrowing down the zip codes of where we really can start targeting.
Sounds good. Yeah, that gives me somewhere to start there.
Yeah, and the good news is, guys, because there's a little bit of a delay on the release of courses because I added an extra one, you guys are all going to get a free extra call too. So we can bring this back in, especially after the underwriting section. Um, and so Ashley, since we have this extra call too, try to get that data pulled and then we can chat about it on the next call too.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. I'll start working on that um yeah, and then I'll get in because I've have several title relationships. I don't know how, just based off of the first video, you recommended that they be more specialized with investors and things. I still have to do that, but do you have a title company that you've worked with on the investor side here in Arizona?
Not on the investor side yet. That's one of my people I'm trying to find right now. I can get you, but so the best way, so how I'm going to find that, and so is I use Fidelity, so I'm going to get a referral from them. But the best way to do this, Ashley, and this is what I'm going to be doing too, is I'm going to call the investors I know right now down there, and go, who's your title rep for all your point title? Because they're the ones doing the wholesale deals and usually the builder activity. Typically, how I usually pull it out of a market, or how I pulled it out of Orange County, is I was looking at all the listings that builders were selling. And the builders, so like, let's say there's an active home for sale that's 2025 built from a spec builder. That title rep, is going to be listed on their Chicago title, this title rep, typically in the offer instructions are suggested. That's the title rep we want, because they specialize. If they're selling for new construction, they're typically an investment style title rep.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I can do that. While I'm looking at all the data, I'll pick out a few of those title reps that are mentioned there. And then I'll even reach out to some of the flippers that I know and see who they've been predominantly using for their
Yeah.
title.
And then you have access to our Facebook page, right?
Yes.
So what I want you, we have a really good community, and there's some good Arizona flippers in there too, which
Hmm.
make sure you tap this. The community is probably half the value for you as a broker. You have Haley's in there, she's an active flipper. Joe's in there, he's an active flipper. There's a few other active Arizona flippers right now that will, I want you to make sure you reach out to them and get to know them, because those are definitely good potential clients for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll
Um,
do.
and then we're gonna be doing some meetup groups down there too. But then ask them, so in the Facebook page, go, hey guys, who's the Arizona Flippers? Can you let me know who your favorite title rep is? And then once I have mine, I'll post it in there regardless. But I do want to kind of train you guys on how to work backwards and find the people. Um, and so that's the exact process that I'm doing right now, is to find that title rep.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good.
But um, yeah, and then we're going to be doing some stuff down in Arizona, so you definitely want to attend those things, because that's where we want to start, like meeting those investors, talking to them, who are the active ones. Because I will say, the inventory levels are a lot higher in Arizona than Seattle right now.
Yeah, you can feel the inventory like is higher for sure here
And
compared
that's
to like,
okay. You can actually, to be honest, Ashley, this is the time to probably do the most amount of business, because once people start getting a little nervous about the market, there's a lot more opportunities there.
okay.
And then it's about locking into those good buyers. So another thing I want you to do with this title rep when we find them is, we need to pull who the most active flippers are in that market, and they can give you that information, but not everywhere, just in Mesa, Queens Creek, and Gilbert.
Gilbert.
And then if we're not seeing the activity, then we might switch over to a different neighborhood.
Okay. I would even say I'm even intrigued a little bit by Chandler. I do less over there, but it borders Gilbert as well. And so I'd be curious to know what the numbers say at the very least.
Yeah, pull them.
Mhm.
It's like, because who knows, you might go, okay, you know what, Gilbert's a waste of my time, but Chandler has a lot more opportunities here for me.
Mhm.
Um, and then what we can do is, then, you start tracking, setting up the auto searches, because what I've seen on market, there's deals on market in Arizona.
Oh, I think there's for sure deals here. I have some clients right now. They're not investor clients, but they're in Illinois and they're saying that their inventory is nothing. It's a very competitive market for them right now in the area that they're in. But it's like here it's I feel like there's a lot more room for negotiation with the what we have on our market in our market right now.
Yes, there's definitely, but it's there. It's funny. I'm like, wow, there's a lot, and that's okay, right? It's just a matter of, where we execute at the highest level is when their market isn't red hot, because then everybody wants in. People are just kind of throwing numbers out everywhere. But when there's more inventory, people get nervous, but the real investors stay. And then what we want to buy on is based on data and information. And the market the inventory could double in Arizona. But if we're looking at a certain price point in a certain neighborhood and it's selling really well, that's exactly where I want to go as an investor. And it it
Gotcha.
it, it takes away my objection of, hey, I want to research the market more, because the market's been researching, this is where we can go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then Ashley, you're also in one of the biggest wholesaling hubs, I think, in the nation.
I know, I know.
Are you connected with those bigger, like my buddy Jamil's company, Astro Flipping?
Oh, like Keegley? Yeah, I have some connections at Keegley.
Okay.
That's his dispo company.
Yes, Keegley. That's it.
Hmm.
And so reach out to them though, right? And so the first thing we want to do is reach out to the investors, find out who's looking, what are they looking for, create that list and go, okay, these are these 5 people I've talked to. They're really active. They're looking. Like I can tell you right now, Ashley, I'm looking for for multifamily value add, 4 to 10 units or 5 to 10 units. I'm going to be a great buyer because that's what I'm looking for. And I'm getting set up on financing down there right now, all those things. Once you know that, then we want to reach out to the wholesalers like Keegley because they're big volume guys.
Hmm.
And the thing is, when they have a niche product like multifamily or luxury, they have a really hard time moving that.
Mm, okay.
And so when you have that buyer and you can go to them and say, hey, look, I got aggressive buyers on these 3 types of product. I need you to call me when you have these. They will call you, but then you got to reach out to them again because they do have access to a lot of deal flow. And that's how you can pick one right off out of there.
Okay. Yeah, I know Keegley's a big one. There's a couple other people that I know here locally that have big uh they're they kind of follow a similar model, but haven't done as much with like as Jamil has with his marketing and presence necessarily. Um but yeah, that's a good idea too, because I have a couple of people that I know do that.
Yeah, and so that's our goal right now is we're going, okay, how do we build this investment business? We want to start talking to the wholesaling companies, the big ones, getting on their preferred list and going, and don't just say I have a broker with clients. Say, hey, I have these clients that are looking for this product. What do you have? That's where you'll really get their attention.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then pulling that list backwards too. And I will also get you a title rep, but I do want you to dig in a little bit
I
too.
will. Yeah.
Hopefully, what I'm hoping is me and you come up with the same person. Then we're
There
going,
you go.
cool, we did it right.
Very good. Actually, I know of a Fidelity title rep that because my husband's a lender broker or broker lender, however you say that, and they were supposed to go last week to the Arizona RIA and his with his Fidelity rep, and so I'm really curious to see if his rep does a lot or if he's just trying to get into the investor world.
Yeah, that's if they're trying to get into. Well, you know what though, the guys that are trying to get into it, that's not a bad person either because they want to get into it. And be like, okay, well, I will give you my business if you can give me these reports and these lists.
Okay.
And use that as the trading chip, right? So, like you guys, title reps, a lot of times for brokers, they come in. Your typical title rep comes in your office. They give you a notepad with a pen, and they're like, "Hey, will you give us a shot? We have a really good escrow company." I'm like, "That's not what I want. I expect a good escrow company because that's the job. But what I want is I need this information. And if you can get me this information, it helps me get more business done. I will give you the business."
Okay.
And if they can't, if they go, okay, let me see if I can find it, or they don't know how to find it, then we got to move on to the next person because the title reps are, I would say like 5% really get it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see what I come up with and we'll see if we have any the same people that come up for both of us.
Yes, I will. I should have one hopefully soon. So, because I'm definitely trying to get going down there.
Sounds good.
What else is going on, guys? Who's working on their broker business right now? Trying to find a broker. I see a lot of people are on the background call listening. Oh, Karen, you're on mute.
Oh, there you go. Can you hear me?
I got you. How are you?
Hey, good. Thank you. I have a question for you. I'm trying to do more than one flip at a time, but
Okay.
does that mean I need to have two exit strategies? Because I'm a little scared, I will say, to do two at a time, because I still don't have enough experience. So what is your advice on that?
Um. Well, I would say I don't bite off more than you can chew at first as you systemize it. I do think, as a broker too, I always tell my clients, I'm like, hey, let's take this one step at a time, systemize it, and then I'm going to get you, then we're going to do more and more. I don't think it's also very achievable. I see people do it. And I would say the most important thing is going to be to have a really good, dependable, like how I know you were working with a contractor, or no, is your contractor your husband?
Yes.
Okay. So you got a good contractor, hopefully. Um, and I would say it's not a bad idea to do two, but we want to look at what's your liquidity right now. Like, is it going to stretch you out too hard, or because you're also raising money to bring in the to close the deals, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you have the money, you have the resources. Does your husband feel pretty good about being able to take on two at a time?
He does, but we don't have like an exit strategy in case something doesn't work well. So,
Okay, gotcha. So you want to know if you flip it and it goes wrong, what's the extra exit strategy?
mhm.
Okay, so first thing is on should I buy the second deal? You should be cautious. You want to get through the first deal. But what I would do is if you have the money and you have the contractor, you know, put your buy box. We talk a lot about the buy box in Project Flip, which is I will buy this deal if it makes me this much money. That's, like whether it's cash on cash return or profit. Adjust your buy box so it's even better to take on that second deal. So if you're going, hey, I need to make 50 grand on this house or I don't want to do it, that was your first deal. Put the next one at 60 to 65 grand. Because then if you have a really good deal, you still do it, right? Because when you're nervous, you're taking on more risk. And with more risk, how we mitigate that is to try to buy something better or to just wait. And so I would say if you have the right opportunity that's even more profitable than your buy box, let's look at buying that deal if you can put it all together. If not, don't push it too hard. Exit strategies, what you want to do, and we talk about this in Project Flip a lot, is get pre-qualified with a mortgage broker and a DSCR lender
Okay.
and find out what you can qualify for on a loan to keep as a rental product and for a DSCR. If we stay inside those flip numbers, it keeps it a lot safer because at any time you can refinance it and keep it if you have to. And so you want to know what you're pre-qualified for that loan. Because if you buy a property that's 600 grand and you only qualify for 450 on a mortgage, you're going to have to sell it no matter what. And so let's get qualified and then work it backwards. And to keep the risk low, you want to be kind of in lower price points because your flip right now is at kind of more affordable price. Like what was the numbers on your flip again?
The selling price is 580.
Okay, 580. So you bought it for 400-ish, three. Okay.
Yeah. 20.
So what we would want to do is get qualified to make sure that you can get refinanced for at least, 450,000.
Okay.
And then what you want to do to kind of check to make sure that the deal's safe is you can always run rent comps on the property too. And on the rent comps, that's going to tell you going, okay, well, if I buy this property, I can't flip it and I have to refinance it up to the max loan I can get. My mortgage payment would be this based on the interest rate. When you're looking at a deal, you can also pull rent comps and go, okay, is this close to covering? And so now you know what you can get on a loan, how much that will cost you for that loan based on the interest rate. If you're looking at the deal, you're like, this is a maybe, then you can pull rent comps and go, okay, well, worst case scenario, I refinance this and I can clear the mortgage with this rent comp. If the rents are, let's say, 2,000 and your mortgage is 3,000, you might want to go, you know what? There's only one strategy is to flip it. It's too risky. I'm going to pass on this for now. And so
Okay.
that's kind of a good way. But the first thing we want to do is get you qualified for DSCR lender, which is a debt service, and they look more at the asset and what it will rent for. And then you want to look at your get a conventional mortgage for rental property qualified.
Okay. 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 Because I will do that. So if the rent is lower, then I should wait, right?
Yeah, it might be somewhat lower, it depends on the property. Sometimes I'll still do it if the rent's like, okay, worst case scenario, I have to pay $200 for this house for the next 12 months, but I still really like the property. I might risk it. If it's $1,000 a month, I might not risk it.
Okay.
Or if it's, let's say I'm losing $200 a month and I really don't like the property, I don't like where it is, maybe not worth it to me. And
Mhm.
so, there's other components involved with that too.
Okay. And you guys are doing like a lot of deals, right? So how do you have a different exit plan besides being pre-qualified? You have several deals going on?
We don't because of the price points in Seattle are pretty expensive of where we buy. So I could, if I went into lower price points, I could do the multiple exits, which is a safe way to go. But in our market, the more affordable houses, the margins are a lot tighter. And so what I do to hedge to make sure that my exit's going to work is I just buy a lot more expensive where there's a lot bigger margin because there's less competition.
Mm,
And so when I'm buying a more expensive flip, it's always to sell. And whether it goes good or bad, I'm selling the property.
okay.
And typically it goes fairly well, or, nothing that, I would say very rarely. Well, I would say the average is if you're good at this, is you're going to lose money at a 1 out of 10. That's just the law of averages. Now, on that one deal that I'm losing money on, I'd rather just lose the money and then go buy a better deal and make it up. And
Mm,
so, but you have to also work there. Like when I was brand new investor, that was not really an option for me, right? Like it was just take whatever I could, make it, put it back. And so staying with the lower price points are going to be a lot more effective for you, but we want to start with the, we want to start with the pre-qualification. And you can go to a more expensive property that it might not work on, but maybe you just expect a lot higher profit on those deals. And that's how you mitigate that risk.
okay. And how long do you hold the property before lowering the price? Like, what's your
That's a great question. So for brokers too, and we talk about this in the listing service on the Project Broker, and we'll be talking about this a little bit more on the reporting side, is I don't cut price unless it's not time. Now, if the average is, so there's a house that I just sold recently and it was on market for 90 days. That's a long time. We
okay?
listed at the wrong time because it was during the election. It was slow. We let it sit for a while. We took it off market. We put it back on. We did not lower the price at all on it. And the reason I didn't lower the price is because the comps in the area were all, so we look at average days on market. The average days on market in this neighborhood went up to 60 days just for this price point. And so we were on market for almost 60 days. And I'm going, okay, well, I'm not going to touch price because every other house in this price point took 60 days to sell. And even if I would have cut the price, I don't think it would have sold it any faster.
Mm,
And then the other thing I was looking at was like we were just talking about was the sale to list ratio. In this neighborhood, if you were selling a house for over $2 million, homes were averaging that they were selling 5% off list price and taking 60 days. If the house was $1.3 million, they were selling in 5 days and selling at 100% list price. And so what that meant is I bought a deal that there wasn't a lot of buyer demand for.
mm,
And so because of that, I had to wait for that buyer. Now we ended up selling it we were listed for 2.2 and I sold it for 2.15
mm,
after 70 days. It was like 78 days on market. And so if I would have cut price to 2,150,000 after 30 days, I would have sold it probably for 2.1
mm.
because it would have still been, it's just how buyers think. And so you always want to use what are the comps doing in the market now? What's your actives at and what are your pendings at? What's your average days on market on your pendings? what are they selling for list price, and are you priced in the same range? Now, if my house that was listed for 2.2 million, everything was selling at 2 million, then I would have needed to bring the price down, but there were still comps that justified our price. They were just taking a long time.
Mm,
And
okay.
so we use it based on those facts. And the other thing we always do is on Mondays, and you guys, anybody that's working with a broker, we call every listing in the area and go, how many showings did you get?
Mhm.
Did you get any potential offers? Now, if our house is getting one showing a week and every other house in the same price point is getting 5, that means we're overpriced.
Mm,
Now, if I'm getting one showing a week and every other listing is getting one showing a week, that means there's just a low buyer demand and we got to wait for that right buyer.
okay. And if you're getting no showings, that means it's the price is high.
Unless every other house in the area is not getting any showings too, then that just means it's a really flat market and it's kind of, at that point, any showing we would get, we'd throw money at them to try to get the offer. But if you're getting no showings, typically you're pretty far overpriced because there's always a buyer, if it's priced correctly, that will at least come look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a listing right now that's getting no showings?
Yes.
Okay. So have you called all the other actives in the area?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I want you to pull any active in a 1/4 mile radius of that
Mm-hmm.
that is in the same price point within like 10%.
Okay.
And then I want you to call those people and find out how many showings they're getting.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 homes, but they're not comps, but they're very different.
Are they the same pricing?
Mm, no.
Okay, so I would go look at the pendings and actives in a 1/2 mile out in the same price point.
Okay.
Because it could be just, because sometimes even when we're selling renovated houses, we're on the highest price point because we're the nicest product. And we can kind of be there's less buyer demand in that area for that price point.
Mm,
And so I want you to go a 1/2 mile out for the same price point and see, okay, how many showings are they getting? Because we want to see how many buyers are in that actual area looking right now.
okay.
And if they're all getting 4 to 5 and you're getting 0, then you probably need to reduce price. If they're all getting 0 to 1 showing, then it's just a really slow price point right there.
Mm, okay. The thing is that some of the comps that I found are similar on size and finishes, but they have a more open floor plan. So I just realized that the kitchen on the house that I bought is a lot smaller. Is
Oh,
that
it's a lot smaller
Mhm.
than the other houses.
Yes.
Okay, do you know what your price per square foot is?
Yeah, 307.
And what are they active at, price per square foot?
The other comps,
Yep.
309.
Okay, so it's not smaller because they're the same price per square foot. It's just the floor plan.
The floor plan. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but let's see. So I wanna know how many showings they're getting though. Because it could just be that the price point is just a little high for that area. And then what I want you to do is in that same 1/2 mile radius,
Mm-hmm.
how many pendings are going on and in what price point. So if they're all pending at 450,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they're not as fixed up, it just might be you're on the upper echelon of the price point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, the good news is you got it renovated back on market pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah.
No, because I remember that it was like we had one call. I'm like, all right, go through, and then I'm like, and then we'll get in, and then you bought a deal the next week. I was like, oh, okay, you jumped right in. We're ready to go. Um,
Uh,
so let's before we worry too much about it, I want you to look at the 1/2 mile radius, the pendings. What's their average price point? How many showings that those other listings are getting?
okay. Because I am getting a lot of people on the open houses. I did 2 open house
Okay.
and 6 families came to the open house.
Okay, and they're active buyers or were they neighbors?
I did two open house. So the first week it was the neighbors, and the second weeks it was
Okay.
buyer.
Yeah, usually the neighbors are the first week. They come in and they want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And what was the buyer feedback in the house?
Mm, one of them says he's interested in the property. The other one complained that the kitchen was too small.
Okay.
It doesn't have a dishwasher, which I didn't thought about when I bought the house. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. But really, I want to find out why there's not enough showings going on for the price point. The dishwasher, is there a way you guys can plumb one in? Or I would look at any homes that, because what's your list price on it?
560.
560. So I also want you to look at any home that's sold between like 525 and 600 and find out, do any of them not have dishwashers?
Okay, 525 and 600. Okay.
Because if you're on the more expensive price point
Mm-hmm.
and then you're missing a key amenity like a dishwasher or a washer dryer, it can be a big deal to a lot of buyers.
Mm, okay. And do the size of the homes need to be the same, or they can be a little bit bigger or a
They,
little
they
bit
can be a little bit bigger. I would just say try to stick within, like, how big is your home?
1820?
I would try to stay between like 1,500 and 2,300
15 and 23. Okay.
because that's still going to give us data points of price per square foot and what they're selling for too.
Okay. Um, okay. Maybe I can send you the listing and see what you think.
Yeah, I'm more curious about the comps right now though too.
Uh-huh.
And to pull those comps together because we want to look at the data on it. And then because then I can look at the comps and go, this is what you're competing against.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to put them in the Facebook page, say here's my active listing, here's the comps, and then if you could put the showing activity in there for me, I can kind of give you a synopsis of that.
Okay. And you want me to put mainly the sold and the actives too?
Yeah, especially the pendings and the actives. But let's do the solds, pendings, and actives.
Uh-huh.
But I'm more curious about the actives and the pendings right now.
Okay. The property's been on the market for 9 days, 9 days. So it's not a long time, but I'm wondering like when should I start worrying?
Well, but that's where that days on market we want to look at. What's the average days on market? If every house went pending or sold took 20 days, then you're
Mhm.
totally fine. Don't even worry about it right now.
Okay.
The dishwasher thing we might want to look at though. I want to see if any of those houses don't have dishwashers in that price point because your husband could plumb one in too. Like if it's next to the sink, they usually can kind of retrofit one back into the box.
Yeah, I don't think there is the space for that. That's the issue that I have.
Okay.
Like
So,
we'll probably have to remove a wall in order to do that.
well, before we look at doing that, let's look at the comps in the days on market, and then I want to see what the size of are the kitchens a lot bigger on these other houses?
It's the same size, but they have an open floor plan because I guess they remove a wall
Yep.
and I didn't. So yeah.
Okay. Let's go post the listing and the comps and then
Mhm.
the showing activity too and the days on market, and then I can definitely give you like recommendations on that.
Mhm. Okay, I will do that.
Cool.
Thank you.
And don't worry, it's 9 days isn't a long time on market.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good. Thank you, James.
We got a quiet call tonight, guys. Joel, you got nothing? I'm kind of logged on.
Well, if there is nobody else, I can ask you more questions. When it comes to the underwriting, I watched your video, by the way, and it was really, really helpful for me to do the underwriting. But there are some things that I still have questions about it. I don't know if when there's not many comps, how many more filters do you use? Like, is the home style, does it has to be the same, or you use like different home styles as comps? Also the size of the home and the high ceilings, like this home with higher ceilings have a higher value than the one with the lower ceilings?
Yes, that will be an amenities thing. For the ceilings will be higher ceilings will get bigger money for sure. But so when you have a lack of comps, what's the first thing I like to do is, yes, you can go with a different style home. That's okay. But you want it to have similar spaces. So like a tri-level home is built on kind of 3 different floors, but they have bedrooms upstairs, a bedroom downstairs, and then there's a main floor. I will comp a split level against a tri-level sometimes if there's lack of data, because again, it's still separation of space. There's still stairs. People still got to go up and down to get to their spaces. Or I'll use a daylight basement for a split level because it still goes down the stairs. Split level might not be able to walk out the back of the basement, but it has a little spot, whereas the daylight basement might be the whole thing, but it has a very similar livability of the house. I won't use a Rambler versus a split level because they're just totally different livable, and they're usually different buyers. Those buyers don't want stairs; they want one floor, and they might pay a premium for that product. And so you can go with similar architectural styles and livability of floor plans is what I would go to next. The next thing I would do is holy crap, you guys, there's a massive thunderstorm just is going off right now. It's the next thing we want to do is, Karen, go into lesser neighborhoods to look for renovated comps. And so, like, if I'm looking at an area, like what city is your house in right now?
Midvale?
Midvale. Now in Midvale, there's probably a nicer area right next to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's going to be a couple other pockets that are a little bit more affordable, right?
Yes.
We don't ever want to go into the nice pocket
Mm.
because it's too hard to justify the livability of that area. But we'll go into lesser neighborhoods because sometimes there's just so low inventory. That's the only one with renovated homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll actually put that number on it because then it makes us feel a lot better because we're in a little bit better area. We're going to be renovated. And so we'll go into a little bit lesser pockets, but all within, I would say like a mile radius of where we're looking.
Okay.
But and then the other thing I would do is go back. You could go back to 12 months on your comps because there's been a lack of sales and interest rates were actually probably a little bit higher back then. And so you can pull your comps back as long as the rates in the economy are about the same. Now, if rates were way lower, then we don't want to go back.
Mm.
But if they're higher, I'll go back because I feel better about the house that I'm looking at because the house is actually more affordable now.
Mm-hmm.
And so try doing those things first. And then, yes, whatever style is very similar, like as far as livability goes.
Okay. Okay. Um, And in this market, how many months back did you go? Like 6 months or?
You should go back 6 months. And if I can't find it, I'll go all the way back to 12 months. As long as there hasn't been a big change in the market. And typically the economy is still doing the same and interest rates are about the same. And so I can feel good about going backwards on those comps. Typically we want to be 6 months. If the market's going bad, let's say rates go up high, we'll actually only go back 60 days to 90 days on comps.
Mm-hmm.
And so the worse the market, the shorter the comps you want to be. The more stable the market, the further you can go back. And if the market's red hot too, we'll focus more on pendings and solds in the last 30 days rather than going back 6 months because it might be worth more now.
Okay. And how do you get to know an area faster? Because I know you've been doing flips on different areas. So how do you get to know the area a little faster?
And what we were talking about with Ashley was, your title rep can pull you active inventory and pendings. And you're talking about get to know it better as far as like, is it a good market or bad market?
Yeah.
So what the reports you want to pull, and you can pull these off the MLS, or you can pull them through your title rep, is you want to pull the absorption rates for zip codes, which houses have the highest pendings with the least amount of actives, and then look at sale list to sale price. Because each zip code and price points will have different price ranges. And you can go, if I'm looking in a neighborhood and things are selling, let's say at $1 million, and that $1 million range, the sale to list price ratio is that the homes average 5% under list. That's going to tell me it's more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. But maybe at $600,000 in that area, it's a more affordable home. The sale to list price ratio is at 100% or 102. That's going to tell me that that's the best place to play in because each neighborhood it's not just about location, it's about affordability in the location. And so that's why those two stats tell you where the buyers are buying most and then what the most competitive markets are.
Oh, I see. Okay. Where the buyers. And you pull those reports for the last 3 months or the last 6 months?
We'll pull it, yeah, for the last 3 months, and you can pull it by zip code on the MLS, and they'll pull that report, or your title rep should be able to pull that report right for you too.
Okay.
And then have them do it by median home price in that zip code.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, those are good ideas. You.
Yeah,
Thank you, James.
you're welcome. Joel, what's
Hey,
up, buddy?
Hey, I was I was caught right out in the middle of that storm when you called me out.
Oh no, dude, this thing is gnarly.
Geez, it's hailing right now.
I know, all of a sudden thunder and lightning and it just sound like it hit our building. Maybe
Crazy.
that's what's wrong with my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I don't really have any questions, but I guess I could kind of add to the topic in general. Just kind of being a broker and an investor, I've kind of learned to leverage my deal hunting now. So it's always like I'm always kind of looking for deals, and now it's like a lot of it's timing, or a lot of it's just like sometimes they don't work for me, but it's just being able to connect with investors, and I'm able to leverage pretty much those opportunities now with with my clients and with other investors. So it kind of goes, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
Pretty-
no, and that's what we talk about in week 3 is like kind of just every relationship that you have, that's actually where you get the most amount of deal flow. It's not just reaching the most amount of people.
Yeah.
And like the people that you're getting deal flow from, this is but why I always push relationships. I'm guessing they're people that you've done a transaction with or you have some sort of relationship with. It's not just a name on the paper.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because you guys, real estate's about relationship building. That's what we do. We
Yeah.
build a relationship with a client, we get their trust, we sell them something. Same with everybody that you do business with.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, like if Joel called me, he's like, "Hey, dude, I think I got a pretty good deal. You've been looking and we've been talking." If I'm
Yeah.
telling Joel I need property and we know each other, he's gonna be like, "Oh, James is looking for something. Let me run and buy him."
Yeah.
And it's about those. That's what the mistake that's happened with COVID is like it became this mass marketing push And the relation, everyone gets treated like a transaction rather than a person.
Yeah. Well, mass marketing, and then you see a lot of like the daisy chains going, and
Yeah.
just like everybody's a wholesaler or has deals now. So it's kind of, you don't really know who to trust sometimes.
Yeah, and it's just about like, you know, we're like, like for even for us, we send out deals, but 99% of the time we've already sold them on one phone call. We're just sending them out so people know we're doing deals.
Yeah.
And then it gets people to call us just so we can engage with them, build the relationship more, going, hey, what are you looking for? Let's get to know you.
Yeah.
Like as a broker, you guys, if you have a good opportunity and you know your clients, it should really only take one phone call to move the house.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's, but you just nailed it on the head. It's all about relationships, and that's one thing I've worked on the last 6 months is going. I don't need to know all these new people. I
Yeah.
need to focus on the people I've known for years.
Yeah. Well, then also, I mean, there are people that have different advantages. So they're like, for example, like if a deal doesn't work for me just because I'm not a GC, or my construction budgets aren't as dialed in, but I might have another guy who it'll work for. You know what I mean? Because he's a GC, maybe he's doing the deals himself, so he's got a little more room in that space. So it's just kind of looking at opportunities a little differently now, as in, okay, well, if it doesn't work for me, it could still work for maybe this guy because maybe he's all cash, so he's not financing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or
So
or maybe they're really like, like if I have a deal in Tacoma, I can't renovate it for the same pricing that the guys down in Tacoma can.
yeah,
And so it's a great deal, but it's not a great deal for me.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
or a big fixer in Seattle, that's right up my bread and butter. I can usually get it done for less than most people, so I buy a lot of that stuff. And it's not because I'm buying a home run deal, I just buying what I'm good at. And are you getting the list backs on all those?
I am. Well,
Good.
I'm trying to on what I can, but for the most part, yeah.
Well, one piece of advice is don't try to, just set it up with the deal.
Yeah.
And if someone comes back to you, like, I mean, there's a broker that we've done tons of deals together. I'm like, dude, I either got to get the price down or I can't do the list. And so I give them the option. I'm
Yeah.
like, and so like I always give them that option. Like it's like always because once they don't give you the list back once, they don't want to ever give it to you.
Yeah.
And
That's
so if it's a math reason, it's like, hey, dude, I'll get you on the next one. Or like the deal I just worked with a couple brokers too is, hey, they don't really list this product, so they didn't really care, but they want to
yeah.
get the revenue. And it was a super tight deal. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy this just because you guys want to get this thing done, but it's so tight. They're only making like 7 grand on the deal, which is not. I also did just pay them 100 on something else. So that really good guys, and I go, hey, look, guys, I can't do that. The deal was not happening unless this happened at this price. And so
Yeah.
I was like, hey, if I can hit this number on the house, I'll give you guys a kicker of a 3% commission.
Gotcha.
And so like, but or get the price down for me. Either get it down to 700 or and they were cool with that too. So always just I mean, even Joel, like if you call me on a deal, I'd be like, hey, dude, this thing's pencil thin. I can't do the list back, and here's
Yeah.
why. But like I know for me as an investor, I always throw that out. But if I do well, I got you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the best things I ever did on a deal. Was there was a guy that sold me a property, and he doesn't even want the list backs, but he wants to be paid on them because he doesn't want to do them, right? And so typically I
Yeah.
cut him a check on the list backs, and so we were negotiating that check cut out, and I cut him the check. And then it was like one of these properties during COVID that just hit an accelerator.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I paid him on a list back of like 1.4 and I sold it for 2 million.
Yeah.
And so I called him like, hey, let's grab dinner. And I sat down for dinner and I whip out a check for the difference in the list back commission.
Nice.
And I
Yeah.
give it to him. And he's like, oh, dude, you don't have to do that. I'm like, I know, but I appreciate it. And this guy
Yeah.
has brought me every deal since.
Yeah.
It's because it's just, and so like those relationships, always just see what you can get out of it, like, but always come across that you want the list back.
Yeah. No, definitely. So the list backs that I've been doing right now, they're kind of more of like just a handshake kind of dab type of thing, but I'm a little worried at some point market turns or just that might come and bite me in the ass. Do you guys use like a formal contract for a list back, or what's like
Yes.
typical protocol on that?
That, and you're going to have that document on week 4.
Okay.
And so that's coming out. It's a consulting agreement because in Washington State, and this is why any brokers on the call, you got to research your regulations. We are not allowed to do a list back.
Okay.
But what we can do is a consulting agreement.
Gotcha.
And so we have an agreement that terminates the broker relationship and says if we do any of the A through Z, we're entitled to a 3% commission of sale price or the listing.
I see.
And it's as simple as running a CMA
Gotcha.
or sending out a spec book or doing a walkthrough or giving them a pro forma. That's the consulting work. And so you definitely will have that this week.
Okay. That'll be super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just good to have it. Like at the end of the day, you guys, if you're selling a property to a client and something happens in the market, we don't have to cut our commissions very often. But when rates spiked up and people were getting hammered for 4 months, our clients weren't asking, we were just coming to the table with commissions.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, what are we going to do? We're all just trying to get through this hump.
Yeah.
And then keep those clients as long term. We do it just so they don't go listed somewhere else when they're making a bunch of money. It's like, and then we always share in the pain, unless the client totally messes it up and does exactly what we tell them not to do. Then I'm like, I'm not contributing to this. But if it's like a market thing, or if a contractor rips someone off really bad and screws up their deal, we'll contribute our part of our commission towards that too, just to do the right thing.
Nice. Yeah.
And that goes a long way with clients.
Yeah. Not totally. Okay. Cool. Cool.
So, all right, guys. Well, I mean, this one's by nature is not supposed to go as long as the Tuesday call. I'll be on tomorrow night too. I feel like we're kind of out of questions. Oh no, Andy's on. There we go. Andy, what's up, buddy?
Sorry, I asked a question in the chat, but then my power went out, so I lost connection. So, can we get a list? All you wonderful brokers on the phone, can we get a list of who's who in the zoo and where you guys are out of? I know you guys have probably all been in the Facebook chat, but it's all individual, right? And there's 500 different things you got to scroll through. Can Amanda or somebody throw something together?
Yeah, we can do that. And then what I'll do too is on the Facebook page, I'll say, hey, let's rally brokers. Whoever's a broker, name who you are, where you're from, and what you offer.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, no, we definitely got, especially, there's some really good brokers in our group from Georgia to Texas to Arizona, California, a lot of California guys in there now. There's some good Washington ones. Joel's one of them. He actually hangs his license at our office. There's some good people, guys. You get use our network. The network is really solid in our group. So,
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, great job on the news today, by the way.
oh, I didn't even see. Did it look okay?
Oh yeah, my dad called me. He's like, you gotta turn it to Channel 4. Your guy he's on TV.
Oh yeah, that was a trip. It was quick, but it's hey, good. So I looked presentable.
You look very presentable. As
There you go. So
sleeveless shirt next time though. I know you get cold, but just show
Yeah,
those.
yeah, I was trying to be a little bit more professional, Andy. So, are you excited for your episode?
I am. Yeah. Well,
I've not seen any clips from your episode, by the way.
I'd love to get a pre-screen so I know what to expect, but
If I get one, I will definitely let you take a look at it.
okay, thanks.
I have not got anything right now. I'm almost in as much as dark as everyone else. So. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I apologize for the internet issue. One thing I do want to premise is the underwriting one is coming out. as well. It's a bonus one. Everybody should watch this. I'm going to put it in the Facebook page too, because it's not just for brokers. It's another revamp on underwriting, just like we've done on all the other courses. But it kind of gives it from the angle of how to underwrite it as a broker and then how to present it in a way that's very sellable to an investor. So definitely take a look at that. And then the last weeks will be coming out right after that, which is going to be on business development. I'm going to take you guys through my CRM, how we classify investors, how we classify sellers, and then the documents to make sure, like securing your list back, making sure that you're protecting your broker business. So, well, cool, guys. Well, I'm going to let you go. And I will see you. I'll be on again tomorrow night. So we're going more over fundamentals.
Thank you, James.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Good
Bye.
night.
I'll
Thank
make sure the
you.
internet's much better for tomorrow. We're going to hardwire it in.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Bye.